What's shaking, everybody? It's the Obligatory Talkback, the show where we step outside the narrative and break down the story from our perspective as insiders of the theme park industry. I know everything about the theme park industry, and my name is Ned Wilcock, your host and GM. Today we're breaking down the entirety of our Varrick World campaign, which means today I'm joined by...
Connor Wood, break dancer.
Ooh, you are suddenly not coming through Discord.
I hear him.
Yep,
I am not hearing... Is it my mic?
Yeah.
I'm not hearing anybody through Discord. What on earth is happening?
Oh, no.
Curses.
Let me check my settings real quick.
Now we say everything bad about Ned as we're recording.
Yeah, he has no idea.
Connor Wood, at least the last place Ned fan. I don't know. That was better in my head.
Last place Ned fan.
Yeah.
Thomas Ryan, Ned's evil twin.
Justin Porter, aka JP, and I think I have a better taste. I don't know. I have nothing.
Got him.
He'll never know.
There was this one time we went to Texas Roadhouse and he busted out a knife from his sock or something like that. And
Not my sock. It was from my
here's a
pocket
sock.
like a normal human.
it's in there.
The knife talk got him.
I was gonna say it was brilliant. I don't know if it was such a treat to just watch Ned enjoy a steak. I don't know.
Produce knives from himself.
Okay, I figured out what the problem was, and I have fixed it.
Woo!
Well, we did our intros, so
Yeah.
Well, I'll see how this comes together in the edit.
Yep.
Well, everybody, hi, we're back for just a little bit so we can wrap up this lovely little campaign with some questions that you all have asked us about our creative process.
Yeah.
And we, as very serious artists, are here to tell you about our creative process.
Quite.
So, we've got some questions from our fans and also a few questions from me that I want to go over. And we'll start with a question from Demon Download, who asks, was that Robo-Varrick voice an actual Ned voice, or was there some post-processing on it? That is a voice that I can do with my real throat and mouth. Yeah, I actually discovered I could do it when I was in Comic Frenzy, our improv group back in the day. I think it was Caleb who actually introduced me to the idea. But essentially, you just kind of talk on the inhale instead of the exhale, and you have to articulate a little bit weirder to try and get the robot voice. And yeah, it's really fun. I like busting it out every so often. I think maybe the first time I used it on the podcast was as Corellatron during the Office Space campaign way back in the day.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a fun one. I like doing it. Next question. This one's going to be towards JP. This is from World Shaper Kato, who asks, in the far-flung and distant future where Sparrowkeet takes over for Spider-Batman, what is his Nightwing-style adult name? Does he keep Sparrowkeet?
Sparrowkeet to Nightwing? I don't know what's a cool name for that. I was like, I haven't thought about that, but I mean...
why not Nightwing?
If he's gonna, I also don't know that, we'd have to have a falling out first before he became... Or if he's gonna go and he's gonna choose, Nightwing. Nightwing was chosen because Superman was talking to Dick Grayson, and there's somebody he knew was Nightwing, and so he used that because he really likes Superman. So, anyway, there's some nerdy lore for you for DC Comics, but...
I vote Darkwing Duck.
That was actually one of my character inspirations for Spider-Batman was Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Darkwing Duck, Lego Batman,
The Lego Batman specifically?
Yeah, and then I watched some 90s Spider-Man and My Hero Academia.
Heck yeah.
And that's where My Hero Academia and a little bit of Spider-Man is where I came up with the, talking out loud. So I'm just he's always monologuing in his head. And I'm just like, what if he was just saying this out loud?
Yeah, I've actually been wanting to talk a little bit about the character creation process with each of you. JP, I remember we went through this kind of arc where before we did our test session, before we started actually recording, you had this idea of you wanted him to be much more serious.
Yeah.
More along the lines of a Christopher Nolan style Batman.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to have him do pretty cool things, but then in that first session I was getting garbage roles like I did towards the end of the season. And so he wasn't turning out very cool, and I was just like, well, if he's not going to turn out very cool, I guess I'll flip that on its script and you go with it.
Might as well embrace it.
Yes and my own bad roles.
Yeah, it worked out very well. I love the young sort of up and coming. It is a very Peter Parker vibe to be okay, I've got this responsibility now. How am I going to deal with this? I'm just a human.
Right. And those Spider-Man and Batman were like the superheroes that shaped my childhood. So I was really like, that was also why I used both of those, because I was like, they're two of my favorite superheroes. So
Yeah, I think back to the original question, though, I think maybe like if Sparrowkeet was to approach Asami or Mako or something, maybe they'd be like, yeah, I knew this guy down in the Triads used to call himself the Nightbender.
yeah.
Ooh,
So
that's
maybe
cool.
he'd be like the Nightbender or something.
I like it.
That's actually kind of a sick name, because it's just like, what is his bending ability? He
Yeah, right?
bends the night. He owns the night, you know?
Yeah. And there's one other question that actually ties kind of into Spider-Batman's background. This comes from Max, who asks, when did you decide that Ghazal Rule was Slim? The origins of Slim are actually kind of an interesting path to get here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Thomas, would you like to talk to us about the origins of Slim? Like the origins?
It's like the beginning.
Yeah.
So, Slim Wickens was a character I created for a Monster of the Week campaign we did very briefly. I think we did 2 sessions of it. My inspiration for him was Danny DeVito at his grossest. He's like a middle-aged man. He's been divorced 6 times, which is not an exaggeration. He's been divorced 6 times. And
Good for Slim.
He's just not someone you want to talk to. He's all greasy and messed up, but he is wealthy, and so he can do stuff that you might need help with. And that's pretty much what Slim was. I don't know if you're in the Discord, a while back I shared a picture that my wife drew of him. He's gross. He's loud and he's gross. That was Slim Wickens.
Yeah, and when we've been talking about character creation for you had thrown out the idea of playing as like a Disney adult, basically, before eventually settling on the T-Spirit idea. But I still wanted to have a bit of that Disney adult flavor in there. So I pulled in this character that you had once played, changed up the name a little bit, Slim Wicklock instead of Slim Wickens, so he sounds like he's from the Water Tribe. Yeah, there was actually at one point JP had referred to him as Slim Pickens, which is more accurate to his origins than I think you might have realized.
Right.
But yeah, that was how I brought him into the scene, just that character in general. I wanted to have a nice comic relief kind of NPC. And then I was talking with JP about Spider-Batman's origins, and we were talking about like how you wanted there to be a League of Shadows style organization that you were part of.
Yeah, and Ned hadn't seen Batman Begins at this point.
That's true.
So like I had to kind of explain it, and then when he watched it, I think you told me he had like a bunch of ideas formulating after watching that.
Nice.
Yeah, turns out those Christopher Nolan Batman movies pretty good.
Pretty good.
Incidentally.
Pretty darn
Yeah,
good.
they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Yeah, so then I was like, okay, well, I want to bring in this character who is, sort of the leader of the League of Shadows, who Shen would have been interacting with. And I guess for anybody who's not familiar with the origin of the name Ghazal Rule, the character in Batman is Ra's al Ghul. So very unsubtle if you're familiar with that particular superhero canon. But the decision to make him and Slim be the same person, I don't remember exactly when that thought came to me, but I think it was like right before we started recording, because I wanted Slim to be a common presence in the park. And I also wanted there to be a way for Ghazal Rule to be kind of this weirdly omnipresent character. Like, how does he know all of this stuff? And so I was like, well, he's going to be undercover there in the park. So that was how that came along. Are there any other Shen Shaoxing origin questions that you want to bring up before we kind of wrap that up?
I have one.
What's that?
Were you bitten by a radioactive spider bat?
No, because if I did, I would have got the powers, or I could just say I was bitten by a rabid one or something. And
You have rabies.
it's like
Rabid spider bat?
it like had such an impact on my life, and I
Got
got
this rabid 20-something flinging around the city, just kicking people's butts.
no. I just
love it.
I kind of wanted it to be more of the Batman route of him having, because at first my first actual kind of idea, I guess, or kind of direction I wanted to go was I did not want to be a bender, which is weird because I like superheroes and superpowers and stuff, but I was like, I don't know, like I wanted to bring up interesting questions of like, they kind of brought them up, in that first season of Legend of Korra, just like, like how do people who don't have powers make it in society, like there's already that uneven ground just from being born. So I was like, I don't know, that was kind of why I went the route of no powers. So
Yeah, I think it led to some really interesting moments there, especially we got to tie in with Marian's engineering abilities there. got to be kind of the Lucius Fox of this campaign a little bit, making all of those cool bits of technology there.
I like that.
But yeah, of course, we saw a lot of other like superhero influences in this campaign. Like essentially the larger villain arc, we ended up seeing Ghazal Rule, of course. We saw Professor Ishitako. And I guess just a little bit of behind the scenes, Ishitako is literally just Japanese for Dr. Octopus.
Perfect.
It's so good.
And I guess on that same note, Xiaoniao, which is the real name of Sparrowkeet, is Chinese for small bird.
Aw.
So there you go.
I love it.
There was one other NPC, though, who some people in the Discord were kind of speculating about what his sort of tie-in with the Spider-Man, Batman sort of lore was, and that was Tokuga. It wasn't intentional, but I guess he is like a Two-Face stand-in.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's got the spirit transformation.
Yeah.
But Tokuga is an actual canon Avatar character from the Turf Wars comics that were released after the TV series had been wrapped up. They leave it on a big cliffhanger with Tokuga at the end of that series. Like everything that I explained in the campaign, there's this big Zeppelin that goes into the spirit world and he managed to escape, and he's just kind of there, and everybody's like, well, maybe he won't come back to hurt us.
Maybe he'll get lost.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and, you know, as a GM who it's my job to just make things complicated for my players, it's just such low-hanging fruit for an interesting plot thread. So,
Well, now everything is canon in our little campaigns.
Yeah.
We're officially part of the Avatarverse.
yeah, I mean, Mike DiMartino and Brian Konecko, if you're listening to this and you want this to be part of the Avatarverse canon, cool, do it. Yeah, that'd be great. Let's talk.
We're more than happy.
That'll be $30. $30.
$30 and it's yours.
Yeah, we know what we have.
But yeah, I guess just while we're on the topic of various other NPCs as well, Kimiko, this is an interesting one. If you're reading in the Republic City source book that was released for Avatar Legends, they go through the different districts of the city, and each one of those has some plot hooks that they've written up that AGM might be able to use for a campaign. And one of the plot hooks in there is, hey, there's this engineer named Kimiko, and she figured out how to make a remote control drone, and all of this kerfuffle happened.
That's awesome.
And I read that after I talked with Connor about his ideas for Marion, and I was like, okay, it's perfect. Here's our sort of tie-in NPC there.
That rules.
And then just two other NPCs I want to touch on real quick in case any of the people who listened to this campaign didn't have a chance to listen to 10,000 Things. Taya and Loeb Seng are NPCs from that campaign that I brought back.
I knew it.
Yeah, and Loeb Seng in particular, during one of the obligatory talkbacks for that campaign, we talked about the implication that, you know, if Loeb Seng had gone to the Southern Air Temple with Gyatso, he probably got killed during the Air Nomad genocide. And then we all got really, really, really sad about that thought. And I was like, okay, don't worry, I'll bring him back. I'll find a way to bring him back, I promise.
He's at a theme park.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He's having a great time.
Yeah.
Yep, this is me making good on that promise from all those years ago. Let's see. Now that we've gone through quite a bit of JP's backstory, Nerd Sparkle asks about Marion's backstory. She wants more info, like why did he join the Unmakers originally, and was there ever an idea for a betrayal?
Yeah. So there absolutely was. I wanted to leave a big kind of open, ambiguous space going into this campaign for the possibility of my character outright being an antagonist. I'm glad it didn't go that route because I like the relationships that were built around him and I like the resolutions of it all. But I wanted to leave it kind of open-ended in case that was the route things went. So as far as why he joined the Unmakers, we had a few little like flashback kind of dream sequences. And again, it does leave things a little ambiguous, but I think as concrete as I have it in my mind, I would say there's, you know, a mentor-apprentice type situation. The mentor was taken away, and I'd like to believe that the Unmakers were the ones who orchestrated that, but Marion's never kind of received confirmation. I think in the wake of him losing, you know, this father figure, someone who's close to him, he's probably looking for a place to go, maybe a group of people that would take him in. And with him being a talented bender, there were probably some open arms with the Unmakers. So I think it was an intentional loss of his sense of home, followed by needing to fill that space, and the Unmakers providing that need.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And there is one particular note about that mentor figure, Bielinski, which is a reference to the very first D&D campaign that I ever ran, that Connor was part of.
One of my favorites of all time.
Yep, we played Curse of Strahd, and if you've played Curse of Strahd, you may know that there is a toy maker in that campaign named Godolph Blinsky, and
I love that guy.
we really loved that NPC, and now he continues to live on in this campaign.
Yep. A slight name adjustment and boom, he's an avatar.
Yep, it's perfect. Just like Ra's al Ghul.
Yeah.
And then I did subsequently run Curse of Strahd a second time, and Thomas and JP were part of that one.
Oh, that rocks.
And maybe I'll run it a third time, who knows?
Love me some Curse of Strahd.
And Thomas, nobody asked about the backstory of Grandma Halmoni,
Which is really good, because there wasn't one. I did zero planning for this character. I really leaned into the improv part. Like, I knew that I wanted it to be a T-Spirit in a robot suit. And I'm not kidding, that's the end of the character design.
I'd say you succeeded with that goal.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, like, the arc, because I think when we first started talking about the possibility of this campaign, I think that was, like, your very first character idea, and then we kind of played around with the idea of the Disney adult, and then ultimately came back to this one.
Yeah, I originally wanted to do this, and then I thought, no, that's too weird. That's bizarre. I gotta do the Disney adult. And then I thought I had to be a Disney adult, and I don't want to do that.
That's hard, man. As a Disney adult, it's tough out there.
I don't have the skill set for it. I'm more comfortable being a T-Spirit in a robot suit than being a Disney adult. So, no intention to dunk on any Disney adults out there that may be listening, but that's just not something I'm good at.
We are a proud people.
That we are.
Yeah, half of the people on this very call, in fact.
It's not personal. I'm not that guy.
I actually just changed my screen to The Incredibles.
Nice.
No, you're a Pixar adult. There's a big difference.
There you go.
Yeah, I love The Incredibles. They're great.
Yeah, that's the perfect blend of being a superhero adult and a Disney adult. Well, those are all of the questions we have received from our friends out there in podcast world. Do any of you have any other thoughts that you would like to share in the wrap-up of this campaign?
My character was heavily influenced by Mrs. Doubtfire. The picture I had on our character keeper was Mrs. Doubtfire. That's it. That's all the work I did on that character. Everything that happened in the campaign, we made up as it happened.
Very much tracks.
Yeah, I think that was something that was really cool about the character creation process was I wanted each of you to have a big secret that you were keeping from everybody else. And we ended up with each of you having a secret that in part was secret to you as well. Like, my character had this thing happen in their history, but we don't know all of the details about it. And so that was a fun thing that we all got to discover on the fly as we went.
I feel like as a player, there was this consistent sense of intrigue that had me pretty excited for like each recording session. Because I mean, shout out to Ned. There was some pretty fun twists.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it. And hopefully you out there, dear listener, enjoyed it as well. And I suppose with that, we're going to wrap up this here talkback and subsequently wrap up this here campaign. And we will fondly remember it for the rest of forever.
Hold on a minute, Ned.
Yes?
We talked about this. Where is our Disney theme park quiz?
Oh, yes, that's right. I was talking with...
Okay, for anyone who's been listening for a while, at the end of the Blades and the Dauphin, every time we did a talkback for however many episodes we did, we would do a Butler quiz, right? I was talking to Ned yesterday about it. Obviously, we can't do a Butler quiz, but Disney theme park quiz seems appropriate.
All right. Do we want the 180 Disney trivia questions from BuzzFeed or the 161 Disney trivia questions from Teen Vogue?
Let's do 161.
We got to rapid fire these if we're going to do it.
Here, let's just go until the bit is no longer enjoyable.
Cool.
Okay, according to BuzzFeed, only real superfans will know the answers to these questions.
Nice.
Thank you, BuzzFeed.
Thanks, Buzz.
And thank you all for listening.
That's Improv Tabletop. Play us out.
Yeah.
Question number 1. What food is Tiana famous for in The Princess and the Frog?
Beignets.
Beignet, yeah.
Gumbo.
Water. Ice water.
Her dad is famous for gumbo. She's famous for beignets.
She is famous for beignets. We're off to such a great start for only the super fans knowing the answers to these questions.
I know. Our hashtag non-Disney adult.
Yeah. Which Disney features a character named Baymax?
Oh, which one is that?
I'm gonna go Big Hero 6.
Big Hero 6.
As a super fan, I know this.
The one that's also an actual Marvel comic.
Yeah. What is the name of the demigod who accompanies Moana on her journey in Moana?
Maui.
Rocky.
Okay, Ned, who is Hades?
The question that would have prompted that is, in fact, what is the best video game that developer Supergiant Games has made?
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Well, this list of questions has been severely disappointing
Nailed it.
so far.
3 for 3. I'm the super fan. I am a Disney adult, it turns out.
Yeah. All right, here's a really tough one for you other super fans. What's the first letter in Walt Disney's name?
Which name? The first or the last name?
You gotta figure that out. That's why it's so hard.
Oh,
Ooh.
You gotta be a super fan to know which one I'm talking about.
There's a silent J at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm like going in a flashback to Last Crusade. He's like, Jehovah's spelled with an I or something. Like Walt Disney's actually spelled with a Q, or something.
In the original Hebrew, Walt is spelled with a J. Everyone knows that.
No.
Yeah.
All right, let's scroll down to the end and see if there's any of these that are actually difficult.
Yeah.
Here's one that might be difficult. What is Minnie Mouse's full first name?
Minius.
Minerva.
It's Minerva.
Dang
Okay.
it. I didn't know that.
That's the nickname for Minerva, is Minnie.
Oh. I've never known a Minerva.
Okay, here's one that might actually be kind of difficult. Which attraction operated from 1957 to 1967 in Tomorrowland?
Death House.
Ooh, you got me there.
What is Death House?
What is Death House?
And it's still not there, and I haven't been there before the 60s, so I don't know.
Yeah, that would in fact be the Monsanto House of the Future.
Ah, but of course.
Yeah, that was it. That was on the tip of my tongue.
Literally never. If you gave me 100 years, I couldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, no, same.
Well, thus far, that is the only one that I'm seeing that is actually difficult to answer.
I like that the questions are like, what does Tiana do? Who is Moana friends with? What was this very specific park attraction in the 50s that doesn't exist any longer?
Here's a fun question. Who is somebody that absolutely loved Disney World and thinks about going to Disney World like every other day, but is also deathly afraid of animatronics?
JP?
Would that be Justin Porter by any chance?
That would be me.
incredible.
I cannot do them. Like whenever we went into I've been on the Haunted Mansion probably 10 plus times. Never once have I opened my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Have you ever played Five Nights at Freddy's?
I feel like you'd enjoy it.
I have not, and I do not care to.
That'd either get you over your fear or that would amplify it.
That's exposure therapy.
That would probably amplify it. Yep.
Yeah.
So like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, that was you like end the ride by dying and meeting the devil.
Yeah.
Like it's just like what? Who thinks of these
That's
things?
awesome. That's why it's one of the best
Is that for real?
rides.
I've never been to Disneyland. Is that for real?
That's real.
All right.
Yeah, that's for real.
You go to heck.
Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. Meet the devil.
Like I don't understand. Like that's like the point of these dark rides is that you're supposed to die. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us for one actually difficult Disney trivia question. Those of you super fans who actually listened past the false ending got this wonderful little bit of trivia here.
This is the after credits scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a long after credits scene.
We're going Marvel with it.
Well, with that, everybody, thanks for listening to this campaign and this talkback. I have been Ned Wilcock, your host and GM, and I've been joined by
Connor Wood, Mediterranean food enthusiast.
Justin Porter, aka JP, and I still don't know what goes on in the Haunted Mansion.
And Thomas Ryan, go watch The Wild Robot. It's actually pretty great.
Nice.
Will do.
Much love and stuff, everybody. We'll catch you next time on Improv Tabletop.